Hey everybody, this is Deb with Truthification Chronicles, and I was watching C-SPAN today and I came across this clip that I wanted to share with you, so I made a little clip of it. And it's about Senator Roy Blunt, who gives a nice little speech about Democrat obstruction. Yeah, he proves it. He has a little bit of data that he shows, and so I wanted to share this with you.
Mr. President.
Senator from Missouri.
Mr. President, the Senate will soon vote, as the former chairman of the Judiciary Committee, the senator from Iowa, has just pointed out, on the nomination of William Barr to serve as Attorney General. This is undoubtedly, as has also been pointed out, one of the most qualified nominees to come before the Senate. Already held the same position under President George H.W. Bush. Also served as an intelligence analyst at the CIA, as an assistant attorney general in the Department of Justice for Legal Counsel, Office of Legal Counsel, and as a deputy attorney general before he served as attorney general. His confirmation hearing lasted more than 12 hours, during which he and other witnesses answered hundreds of questions on a wide variety of issues he might confront as Attorney General. He was straightforward and forthcoming. He earned high praise, even from the ranking Democrat on that committee, our colleague Senator Feinstein from California, who said, quote, he's obviously very smart. He was Attorney General before. No one can say he isn't qualified. I was thinking last night, obviously Mr. Barr is qualified. He is bright. He is capable. End her quotes. She could have said more, but one of the things she said after that is, I won't be voting for him. This is an important job for the American people. There are a lot of jobs out there to be filled. Hard to argue that any of them are more important than this one, but also hard to argue that there's not something wrong with the process to where that's the comment that could be made, followed not too long after that was, I won't be voting for him. Senator Grassley pointed out that the last time Bill Barr was confirmed to be Attorney General, it was by voice vote. Seems like that must have been a long time ago. Oh, it hasn't been that long ago, just the way the Senate used to work. That's why the Rules Committee that I chair today passed a resolution, voted out a Senate resolution earlier today dealing with this issue. This should not be the problem it is. It shouldn't be an issue, but frankly, the nomination process is broken. In every election in this country, one thing has been certain: at least one party will not be happy with the result. I certainly understand why our Democrat colleagues weren't happy with the results of the 2016 election. There have been elections I've not been happy about, and some that I've been more happy about than others, even when I was happy. This is a process that it's easy to not be pleased with what voters decide to do, but that doesn't give you the right to stand in the way of what voters tried to do, and that's exactly what our friends on the other side of the aisle have done. Over the past 2 years, we've had unprecedented obstruction to just trying to put a government in place. Unprecedented obstruction to confirming a president's nominees. During the first Congress President Trump was in office, the previous 2 years, Mr. President, he submitted 1,136 nominees for jobs across the federal government. During that same period of time, President Obama submitted 1,132 nominees. By the way, President Trump is sometimes criticized for not getting the nominees up here quickly enough. He actually got 4 more nominees up during that period of time than President Obama did, but the Senate confirmed 920 of President Obama's nominees during that first 2 years, and the Senate only confirmed 714 of President Trump's nominees, barely more than half for President Trump, or barely half for President Trump, and about 70%, 75% for President Obama. There's nearly a 200-person difference, but more importantly, maybe than the difference, is the obvious effort for us not to be able to get other work done. At the end of the last Congress, we returned the largest number of nominees from any president since Ronald Reagan. Now, there are only really two reasons for that. One is to frankly stall the confirmation process and make it difficult for the president to do the job of being president. If you don't get the people to help you do the job you're elected to do, you can't do the job as effectively as you would otherwise. You know, we just had a government shutdown, which I think all of us were disappointed by. This is bad policy. Don't want to repeat it again. Didn't want to repeat it that time. But you have a partial shutdown of many of these agencies and parts of the government every single day because you don't have the people necessary to put the rules in place. There was a lot of discussion during the government shutdown of farmers who weren't able to get the loan guarantees they needed because the office was closed. Well, to some extent, it's the same way when the door is open, but the people aren't there. When the door is open, but the rules for the new farm bill haven't been issued. When the door is open, but the trade regulations that need to be made for the tax bill aren't out there. Now, the other reason, by the way, the second reason, is just to use up floor time. There are only so many things we can do here on the Senate. The majority leader is fond of saying the most precious commodity in the Senate is floor time. And if you're required to drag this process out, as the minority has insisted we do for the last 2 years, things don't happen otherwise. First 2 years of the Trump administration, there were 128 cloture votes right here, 128 cloture votes. That's where a Democrat, usually the minority leader, insists that we're going to have to get a majority of votes to even have the debate on a candidate. Once you file that, that takes a day before you can even begin to have the debate. And then the debate's 30 hours. And so half a week is gone before the week starts, just trying to confirm one person for one thing. That could be as important as a Supreme Court judge, or it could be the lowest level of confirmation in any of the agencies of government. And by the way, those are the people who haven't got put in place because obviously lifetime judges matter and both parties would prioritize that. But 128 clochures in the first 2 years of the past 3 presidents, a total of 24 times. 24 times, that's an average of 8 compared to 128. There's a lot of difference in 8 and 128 because the tradition of the Senate, matter of fact, I think if President Bush was on here, President George H.W. Bush, that number was 0, no time. And that was much more traditional up till that time than now. When President Reagan was president, once a nominee got out of committee, it was an average of 5 days before that nominee had a vote here on the Senate floor. Normally, the same kind of voice vote that Senator Grassley mentioned that Bill Barr had the last time, but an average of 5 days. With President Trump, it was 55 days before you could get a vote once you got out of committee. Now, remember, Mr. President, you've already filled out, if you agree to serve in one of these jobs, you've given all your financial information, you've given all your personal information, you've been investigated through and through, you've appeared before a committee, they've asked you every question they could think of to ask you, they have voted you out of that committee, and then 24 people at the end of last year were sent back to the White House at the end of that conference. I think it was over 24 people, over 24 people that had been waiting 1 year to become maybe the Deputy Assistant Secretary of Interior. This will not work. It is not how our system is supposed to work, and we need to move forward. And it's not like that when this happens, this 128 cloture votes happens, that then there's a huge debate. There's 30 hours plus the intervening day, but that doesn't mean there's any big debate. In fact, usually there's almost no debate at all on these nominees. And when they are voted on, when the nominees are voted on, 48% of the nominees got over 60 votes. 37% of the nominees got over 70 votes. So clearly, this is not about holding back somebody that can be confirmed. It's about using up time that should be used up for other things. There are two jobs of the Senate. One of them is the personnel business. One of them is confirming people that the president nominates, but the other is the legislating business. The other is the funding the government business. The other is the talking about foreign policy business. The other is talking about the economy and trade and taxes. Every hour we spend on this is an hour we can't spend on that. So the resolution we passed out today was one I introduced with my colleague from Oklahoma, Senator Langford, who's been working on this issue for 2 years now. Others of us have as well, but we introduced this bill to cut the amount of time back to what had been a temporary standing order when Republicans were in the minority, and we agreed to this temporary standing order. Democrats were in the majority. There was a Democrat in the White House, and we agreed to essentially this same framework. 2 hours for most nominees, 30 hours for circuit judges and Supreme Court judges and cabinet officers, and 78 senators voted for that temporary order. Now, usually when you do a temporary order, it's to see if it worked. Well, it worked, but we didn't do it again. So we're now saying let's make that temporary order a permanent part of the way the Senate approaches this part of its job. We are moving in that direction. We had a debate this morning in committee. The time we're spending on the floor, if there's a nominee that needs 30 hours, they're almost certainly going to be in that category that gets 30 hours. If there's a nominee that would be in the 2-hour category, they're going to have been through committee. They're going to have been thoroughly vetted. The committee's going to decide they should be reported out. We need to get back to that 5 days after that. The Senate lets this person go on to fill a job that is, in all likelihood, not going to last beyond one administration, and maybe not even that. It won't be long before nobody's willing to sign up. If a year later you put your life on hold and you find out that really the Senate just somehow can't get to the job that you have agreed to serve on because we've got to take time that the Senate never took before. So, Mr. President, I would hope that my colleagues on both sides of the aisle look at that standing order that could change our rules in a way that allow people who are willing to serve to be thoroughly vetted, thoroughly questioned, and then voted on. This can't happen unless they get voted on. And clearly the current process of voting on people is a process that has been abused. And while the Senate is a place that recognizes the rights of the minority, those rights have only been upheld when the minority viewed them for what they were, rights of the minority rather than tools of the minority to obstruct the elected government of the United States of America and the work of the Senate. And with that, Mr. President, I would yield back.
So, what'd you think? Yeah, he really laid it out there, and he's right. You know, that's what they're using this for. For those who don't know, cloture is like a vote to close, essentially, that particular matter so they can do the vote for it. And so what he's talking about is what they're doing is making this extra step where they have to go through this, and then there has to be 30 hours debate, and this and that, and they're just, like it says here, burning the clock out. They just want to delay things so much so Trump can't do what he was tasked to do by we the people. And that's what the problem is. Now, I know that the Democrats would say, oh, yeah, but you know the Republicans did that with Obama. No, you saw the stats. Not near to the extent that they're doing it with Trump. I mean, that was pretty incredible. 128 compared to Obama, 12. I mean, really, That is a serious change. Now, yes, the Republicans did block some things that the Democrats wanted to do during Obama's term in office. But part of the reason was we had that big shift into putting Tea Partiers in there, and that put Congress in opposition to Obama. And so, yes, there was tension there, definitely. And there were times that I'm sure the Democrats assumed or would think that we were obstructing them, but we weren't necessarily. It wasn't just for obstruction purposes. See, that's what's going on here, and we see it with the wall, definitely, because it's like, no, we will not give you any money for a wall, specifically a wall. We want border security, but we don't want a wall. It's one specific thing, and that's not what was happening during the Obama years. During that time, we were looking at policies and we were trying to stop policies because we saw them as socialist policies that we, the people, didn't want implemented. And so there was a huge difference. Now, in this case, these are just nominations. These really are. These people have just been nominated to a position. It should not be a big deal. A lot of them, as he was saying, are low-level jobs. So it's not like they're somebody big and important and they're going to change the course of our entire government or our entire nation. They're just ordinary people who need to fill jobs so the jobs can get done, so our government can run better. And this is what's so ironic about the Democrats, because they were so concerned about the government shutdown. Friday is the deadline for possibly another shutdown. I don't think Trump's going to do that, by the way. I think he is just going to say, we're building the wall anyway. But also, I think he's been building the wall. I think he's been using military funds somehow to get that wall built anyway. And they're just not talking about it because I've seen videos of the border. The wall is being built. I think this is just a way to get the Democrats to show how anti-American they really are becoming. As long as they oppose Trump, they don't care what happens to the American people. But we see this with the wall, that we have this, we don't want to do it because we don't want Trump to get a win. That is not why the Republicans during Obama's administration opposed things that he was doing. We opposed it because we didn't agree with the policies. And this is where I've had a lot of discussions with friends who are Democrats. I used to teach at a school that was majority Democrat teachers. There were about 3 of us, I think, that weren't. And it was a very difficult time. I was there in 2008, 2009. It was the most miserable year I have ever had teaching because it was so pro-Obama that if you dared to say anything against it, you were attacked. I mean, it was a very difficult environment. And I was teaching in a 98% white school. Not even a lot of Hispanics in that particular school. So it wasn't a racial thing. There wasn't anything like that. It was just that the liberal ideology was so strong in those teachers that the idea that anyone that would dare to talk about Obama's policies that they didn't agree with was considered totally racist. And I know many of you probably experienced that as well, but it was just not even considered. And this is the problem we have. It's obstruction for obstruction's sake. It's not obstruction because you disagree with the policies. Most Democrats are starting to say, yes, we need some kind of border security, and that would include some kind of barrier. But oh no, the leadership doesn't want that. And then we get situations like this. And I think it's really telling when he has these statistics here that back up what he's saying. I think it's definitely an obvious proof that the Democrats have been obstructing for obstruction's sake, not because they disagreed with policies or anything like that. And even with what he said about Dianne Feinstein and her comments about William Barr, she said he's a perfect candidate. And then she turned around and said, but she's not voting for him. And there's several that will do that. There's several of them along the way that did the same thing. Why? Because they can't allow Trump to have a win. And they just want to obstruct. They want to oppose Trump. They hate Trump. It's very clear that this is all about anti-Trumpism. I'll tell you, the Trump derangement syndrome is running rampant right now. It's taking them all over. It's eating away at their brains, I think, because they just want to stop anything positive out of this administration. Now, if you're somebody who is not maybe a Q follower, I understand. I get a lot of people that say they're not. I understand that. And I'm not trying to push Q on you, but I do want you to think about something. Why was it that this man is being attacked in such a way as he is that's clearly much more than any other Republican ever? Why is this happening? To me, this just makes sense that there is a deep state that he's fighting, and that the deep state does not want to lose their power. And this is what we're watching happen. This is one of the reasons why I do think Q is real, that there is a real military operation going on behind the scenes, and Trump is part of it. I mean, obviously, there are more reasons I have than that, but I think this is something you have to think about. Why is there so much hatred toward this particular man? Remember, before he started running, a lot of these people, especially like in Hollywood and everything, were friends with him. And a lot of the Democrats were friends with him. So why did they suddenly turn against him? Was it because Hillary was defeated? Or was there something else going on? And even if you don't want to think about Q, think about the deep state, because the deep state is real. There is an organization of people that are working behind the scenes to the detriment of the American people. And that's what Trump is trying to stand against. And this is why you're seeing so much opposition, and even in things like this. So I wanted to give that to you and show you what he had to say. If you've ever watched C-SPAN, a lot of the time you're sitting there watching dead air or dead space, just people wandering around doing things and you have no idea what they're doing. And then once in a while people get up and they start talking. I don't know how all of it works. I just watch, and sometimes there's something interesting like this, and other times you hear people like Schumer, who I believe was the next speaker, and that was like, yeah, okay, not going to listen to him tonight. So I wanted to give this to you and let you see just what's going on, and I thought it was very interesting about the data that he presented, how it really is proof that the Democrats are obstructing anything that has to do with Trump. And it's really sad that we have come to that point. And that's the point he was making too, that it's sad that we're at the place in our government where this happens. I mean, why is this? Why isn't a man like William Barr, who is very capable and has the credentials, why isn't he confirmed with a voice vote? It should be easy. It should be a no-brainer, but it's not. And that's what takes time. And that's what they're doing. They're slowing things down. As for people like Ruth Bader Ginsburg, I tend to think that they're slowing down time there too. I don't know what the deal is with her. I haven't seen any hide nor hair of her, but I've heard rumors that she's voting. And I don't know how she would be able to vote if she's not there during the actual proceedings. But I think what they're doing is they're trying to run out the clock on her too. If they could keep up the illusion that she is still alive and kicking until after the first of the year in 2020, then they can claim the same thing as happened with Merrick Garland. So I think that's what they're trying to do. Now, I don't know. I don't know if they've got a clone. I don't know if they've got a doppelganger of some kind that they're going to try pass off as her. I think it would be very hard to get somebody who actually does look like her, but, you know, they have facial recognition software, so who knows? I wouldn't put it past them. But honestly, I think they're just trying to keep what's happened to her a secret until they need it. And who knows when that'll be. But on the upside, I don't know if you heard on Fox News, I think it was Wednesday night, maybe, Devin Nunes said there are arrests coming. As soon as Barr gets in, they're going to give recommendations for criminal charges.
Look, we need the new Attorney General to get in there, and then we will be making criminal referrals on many people who lied to Congress and did other bad things.
They're going to give their recommendation for criminal charges for several people to Barr, and I'm pretty sure he's going to follow through. I think a lot of people are going to be those in the upper echelons of the FBI and some other people in the DOJ and everything. It could really kick things off. So hang on to your hat. When Barr gets in, There's no holds barred. So I think he's really going to take off once he gets in there, and it should be soon. So either Thursday or Friday will be the confirmation vote. We have the votes, so yes, it will go in that direction. But I don't think it should be that close. If Barr's confirmation is not very close, you'll know that there is a big fracture happening in the Democrat Party. Because the rank and file, you have to be a good soldier in the Democrat Party. You have to toe the party line. Well, we'll see. When the vote comes down to it, are they going to say, yeah, this guy is qualified. There's no reason why anybody shouldn't vote for him. Or are they going to say, I have my marching orders. I'm going to do what they told us to do. It'll be interesting to see. But anyway, that's what I've got for you tonight. Remember to click that subscribe button down below because my birthday's getting close. It's the middle of April, and I'm a little bit behind in my subscribers to make it on time. So I need a few more subscribers. If you're not subscribed already, I would appreciate it. If you already are subscribed, thank you so much. I really appreciate you. And make sure you get the bell clicked because that will tell you when my videos come out. I don't always post on a schedule. I try to, but it's not always easy because of some health challenges. So make sure you get that bell clicked so you'll always know when they come out. Thanks for stopping by, and I will see you all later.